Good morning, everybody. So thanks for coming. So today's workshop is we're going to be talking about exams. So first we're going to do MSc exams, transfer exams, and then Joanne is going to go on to the different PhD exams. Okay, so next slide, Joanne. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about the master's exams, so the final oral exam for the master's students. So there are some program requirements for exam eligibility. So I think this is now applicable to most of you, so students who came after September 2020. So you must be a registered student to be able to hold a final oral exam. So even if you've completed all of your courses beforehand, you still need to be continuously registered and to either paid or deferred your fees in order to be a registered student to be holding an exam. So for course, and then moving on to course requirements. So you need to have completed the MSc 1010, which is the 0.5 FCE. If scientific day is the only thing that's still outstanding, you can schedule your defense, so you can submit an exam packet. But the defense needs to be held be scheduled following scientific day. So we know scientific day is coming up in April, so you can still submit for, if you're planning on having a defense sometime in May, you can submit your exam package before scientific day. However, again, your exam date needs to be after scientific day. And so like if you don't participate in the scientific day, you don't receive the credit. And then your exam will have to be canceled or rescheduled if that component isn't completed. So moving on, there is the 0.5 modular courses, so the 2.5 course credits each, and then a combination for one 0.5 FCE graded. So then for PACs, you need to have held at least 4 PAC meetings. So the last PAC meeting that you held is your mock defense. And you need to have approval from your PAC committee that you're ready, that your thesis is ready and to move on to holding an exam. So as for the thesis itself, for master's students, it should be approximately 85 pages, not including any reference pages, not including any appendices, and not including any preliminary pages. And we do recommend that you sort of follow the standards as it's outlined in the guidelines as to how to structure your thesis. Okay, next slide. So this is the timeline that's on the website, but we'll just go over it. So when you're looking to when you should be holding your final oral exam, I know a lot of you have applied to med school, and med school, the dreaded June 30th deadline for those of you to take into consideration. So for the final PAC meeting, so when you're scheduling your final PAC meeting, you want to give your PAC members at least enough time to read your thesis. So we recommend when you're scheduling your final PAC meeting, you should submit the final, like the draft version or the final draft version of your PAC onto your PAC members, like at least 4 weeks before your final PAC meeting, so that it can give them a chance to actually like go through and read your thesis. And like I mentioned before, like your final PAC meeting is meant to act as like a mock or a practice defense with your PAC committee members. So you need to have all of your PAC committee members there at your final PAC meeting. So 6 weeks prior to your exam, you need to submit an exam package to the IMS office through the online portal that's on the website. And then usually it takes a couple weeks it can take up to a couple of weeks for your exam package to be approved, especially during peak times when we're getting all of those exams coming in. It takes a while to go through them. 4 to 5 weeks prior to your exam, you should receive like a thesis distribution email from us once it's been approved, and then you can distribute your thesis to your exam committee. And then we typically send out all of the notices, all of the exam notifications to you and to the other members of your committee. A week prior to your exam, you usually get your appraisal, your written appraisal from your examiner appraiser, and also notices from the IMS office about an exam reminder and when to circulate your exam slides to your committee. All right, next slide. Okay, now I'm moving on to transfer exams and exam eligibility requirements for those of you who are interested in transfer exams, transferring from the master's to the PhD program. So again, you must be a registered student in order to be able to hold a transfer exam. Course requirements, so 1.0 FCE course equivalence with an A- average, like a cumulative A- average. You need to have completed all of MSc 1010 and have completed an additional 0.5 FCE of the modular courses. And so the same thing applies for the MSc 1010 for transfer students as it does for the master students. So if there is an MSc 1010 course component that's outstanding, like scientific day, yes, you can still submit an exam package. However, again, the exam date needs to be after scientific day, or if you still have the group presentations outstanding, you need to complete that component and then have your transfer exam. So for transfer students, for those interested in transfer exams, you should have at least 2 PAC meetings. So the second PAC, depending on your timeline, is typically your second PAC meeting is your mock defense. Sometimes, depending on your timeline, if you're holding it a little bit later, it's fine if it's your third PAC meeting. And again, you should allow, once you're doing a mock defense, you should allow a little bit more time for your PAC members to read your research proposal prior to holding that like mock defense. When you're submitting an exam package, you need to confirm and have a conversation with your supervisor. You're able to supervise PhD students because some of our faculty members are only able to supervise master students. So they might need to apply for a faculty membership, or you might need to have a co-supervisor on board that has full faculty membership status. You can usually ask them or talk to them. They'll usually know if they're a full member or not, or it's on their website what their faculty membership status is if you search their name. Yeah, okay, next slide. That's it, right? Oh, transfer timelines. Yeah. So transfer timelines. So it's a little bit shorter than the master's thesis. So we require a minimum of 4 working weeks for a transfer exam package to be submitted to the IMS office. But when you're looking for your pre-exam PAC meeting, generally it's usually about 6 weeks prior to submitting an exam package, because like once you hold that mock defense, your PAC members may suggest tweaks and changes to your research proposal before you submit, and so you should usually give yourself a little bit of time to make those changes, so which is usually about 2 weeks. Yeah. Okay, next slide. Okay, so the exam package submissions. So all of the exam packages are submitted online electronically through the MS forms. So the nomination form, so like the actual form itself, is the MS forms form that you're filling out. So the exam committee that we're looking at, so primary academic appointment for all of the committee members, their SGS appointment, and their information. If they have administrative assistants, it's also really useful to include that as well, because they're usually the ones that are organizing and blocking off dates for those faculty members, so they don't accidentally book another appointment in that time. Let's see what else. So all of the supporting documentation, so depending on the exam that you have. So some of the things for the exam committees, so make sure that when you're asking for examiner chairs and examiner appraisers, they are dual roles. So when you reach out to those faculty members, so make sure that they are aware and have agreed to it at the time of the request, that they're aware that it's usually an examiner slash appraiser, an examiner slash chair, so that they're aware of what you're asking of them before they agree to it. And you should have reached out to or your supervisor should have reached out to the proposed examiner chair and examiner appraiser and confirm their availability before you submit your exam package. So all internal members must have an active graduate faculty membership appointment. And it doesn't, so for the examiner chair, their examiner chair must have an active graduate faculty membership with IMS. But for the examiner appraiser for your PAC and for your PAC members, they don't need to have an active graduate faculty membership appointment with IMS. They can have an active graduate faculty membership appointment at U of T. Or if you're using an external examiner, which you can use, they need to have that equivalent at that university. So for quorum minimum is 4 members. So your supervisor, at least 1 PAC member, the examiner appraiser, and the examiner chair. And that's true for the MSc and for the transfer exams. And you'll also need to pay attention to the arm's length criteria for those non-members. So you can check PubMed to see if there's any conflicts between your supervisor and those external members. There's no publications between your supervisor and them for at least 6 years. And they also can't necessarily be from the same academic department and division as your supervisor. There are exceptions, like if it's a particularly large department, like the Department of Medicine, that's fine. They can be from the same, or like Department of Surgery, that's fine. But their division has to be different. Okay, next one. I think that's it.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's it for me.
Thank you, Emily. My name is Joanne Lee. I'm the PhD graduate program assistant, and I'll be talking about the PhD exam as well as the PhD qualifying exam. So for PhD requirements and exam eligibility, for this year, all PhD students, including those who confer their master's degree at IMS and also who enter the program on or after September 2022, must hold a qualifying exam. So all students taking the qualifying exam is mandatory now. And you need to be a registered student to submit and hold a final oral exam. For course requirements, students are required to complete a minimum of 2.0 credits for PhD and 3.0 for PhD direct or transfer students. So again, you need to complete your MSc 1010 plus 0.5 FCE modular course, plus 1.0 electives for PhD students. And it needs to be a letter graded course. It cannot be a non-credit or non-credit course. And all students must meet candidacy in order to proceed to their final oral exam. So you need to take at least 4 PAC meetings, and you need to have an approved thesis topic for your PhD degree by the end 3rd year or end of your 4th year for PhD direct and transfer student. So after you meet your candidacy, you can proceed to your FOE. Final PAC meeting. When the supervisor and the PAC members have approved your written thesis, a final committee meeting is held with a full practice oral examination to prepare you for your defense. So this is your mock exam. And if you intend on applying for a waiver of the IMS departmental exam, it's mandatory to have an additional faculty member at the end of, at the final PAC meeting. So the additional faculty member is the internal examiner. They need to have an SGS membership, supervisory experience. They need to provide an objective and perspective and feedback of the thesis and presentation. The committee members will vote on your readiness for your defense and signs the waiver form. So for your final PAC, all PAC members' attendance is mandatory. So waiving the departmental exam, it's mandatory for field expert to participate, and they must have an SGS appointment and scientific competence in your research area. If your waiver is not approved, then you'll need to hold a departmental exam prior to holding your final oral exam. If your waiver is approved, you can proceed right to your scheduling FOE. And the field expert must serve as a potential FOE examiner if they meet the arm's length criteria. So the same person from your final PAC can join your FOE if they meet the arm's length criteria. Most cases, students waive their departmental exam from their PAC meeting. This is the PhD exam timeline. So after taking your final PAC meeting, you will obtain your PAC approval to proceed to FOE, and you will be applying for departmental exam waiver if applicable. And 9 weeks prior to the exam, you need to submit your full exam package to IMS for approval. And 6 weeks prior to the exam, you will be distributing your thesis to the committee once it's approved by IMS, and we'll let you know when to distribute it. And 1 to 2 weeks prior to the exam, you'll be receiving your appraisal from the external appraiser, and IMS will be distributing that to the student and the committee members. And students should finalize and circulate their PowerPoint presentation about 1 week prior to the exam. And again, we will let you know when to distribute it. And after taking your FOE, you'll be completing any post-exam thesis corrections stated by the exam committee, and you'll be submitting your final copy to ProQuest. And the convocation will be in November, June, or in March in absentia. The final oral exam process. So again, we require at least 9 working weeks prior to the date of your FOE. And you'll be submitting 10 different documents, and all of these documents can be downloaded from our website. So first, the FOE nomination form, your final thesis submission checklist, your up-to-date CV, and the final PAC meeting report, 1-page thesis abstract, which should be double-spaced, FOE external appraiser nomination form, external appraiser's CV, and the SGS remote participation form, and lastly, departmental waiver request. Right now, you can do hybrid exam, in-person exam, or you can do fully virtual exam. It's up to you, and you just have to let us know beforehand. In conjunction with SGS, IMS will vet your exam committee, and we will find the chair for your exam. If the waiver is approved, you can schedule your FOE, and IMS will send out all official notifications and instructions to you and the exam committee, and we will collect and distribute the external appraisal of your thesis, and we will prepare the chair file for your exam. And you are responsible for sending your approved thesis to the committee members. And again, we will let you know when to send out your thesis. So choosing your external appraiser, it's really important that they need to hold at least associate professor's rank. They cannot be an assistant professor. And they need to have an experience supervising PhD students. The appraiser cannot be affiliated with U of T or any of its teaching hospitals within the last 6 years. And they cannot have collaborated with you or your supervisor in the last 6 years. You can check PubMed for their collaboration. Formal approval is made by SGS. If they say no, you have to look for another member. So it's important to have a backup choice if you are not sure of their eligibility. If you want to double check, you can always send the names of the examiners to me ahead of time so I can check their eligibility requirements. And lastly, we provide a $100 honorarium for writing the appraisal. For FOE committee composition, ideally, we recommend to have 6 voting members, but in order to meet the quorum, you only need 4 members. So at least 2 members should be external to your PAC, meaning 1 internal examiner and 1 external appraiser who's outside of U of T. Plus 2 internal members, so 1 person is your supervisor and 1 person is your PAC member. But ideally, we recommend to invite 2 PAC members and 2 U of T examiners, 1 supervisor, 1 external appraiser, so that you can get the best experience out of it. U of T PhD FOEs are closed to the public. No one but your approved committee members can attend, and IMS does not allow public presentations. If you have more than 2 PAC members, you can have the 3rd person joining as a non-voting member. And make sure to book the examiners at least 3 hours for your defense. Moving on to the qualifying exam. All PhD students, including who confer their master's degree at IMS and who enter the program on or after September 2022, must hold a qualifying exam. It's the same process. You need to be a registered student, and the qualifying exam must be completed within 18 to 21 months of registration. The course requirements, you need to take MSc 1010H plus 0.5 modular course, which is the mandatory course, plus 1.0 FCE, that's equivalent to B plus average. PAC meetings, you need to take a pre-exam PAC meeting, which is typically your number 2 PAC meeting. And research proposal should be submitted prior to the meeting. And exam timeline. For qualifying exam, you need to submit the exam package 4 weeks prior to the exam. And 3 to 4 weeks prior to the exam, distribute your research proposal to the exam committee once it's approved by IMS. And 1 week prior to the exam, IMS receives your appraisal from the examiner and appraiser. And students should finalize and circulate their PowerPoint presentation. And after your qualifying exam, you'll be completing any post-exam corrections and submit the finalized copy to the IMS. The research proposal, it's double-spaced between 15 to 20 pages. It includes title page, background, work to date, hypothesis, experimental design, projected outcome, and your predicted timeline to complete your PhD research, references, and appendices. The exam committee is same, so you need to have 4 members to meet the quorum, 2 internal to your PAC and 2 external to your PAC. But the 2 non-PAC examiners, so they also have a dual role. 1 person will be examiner and chair. And since they are the chair of the exam, they need to have an active IMS graduate appointment. And they should be SGS member as well. And the examiner and appraiser, they should have an active SGS membership, or they can also be a non-U of T faculty with the graduate appointment. They should have arm's length criteria meeting to both both supervisor and the student. And they must not share the same primary academic department as the supervisor. So again, if they're from the Department of Medicine, they cannot be from the same division. Quorum is 4 voting members, 2 internal to PAC and 2 external to PAC. And graduation and convocation, Emily will be discussing.
Yeah. So this is applicable to the master students who are finishing, and same with the PhD students who are finishing up. I mean, it gets everybody eventually. So there is a difference between graduation and convocation. And so sometimes, you know, colloquially we use them interchangeably, but there is actually a difference. So graduation refers to having a student met all degree requirements. So you can be a graduate of the program at any time, but be awaiting convocation. So being a graduate of the IMS means that you've successfully held your final exam, and you've uploaded the finalized version of your thesis to ProQuest. So you've graduated from IMS. Mm-hmm. Whereas, and that can happen at whereas convocation is the ceremony, or it's the official recognition of where your degree is officially conferred and where it officially eventually will show up on your transcripts. And so convocation only happens 3 times a year. So it happens in March in absentia. So if there's no actual ceremony, it just reflects on your transcripts that you've completed your degree in March. June, which is an actual ceremony, and then in November, which is an actual ceremony. So for those of you, particularly for those of you who are going on to apply to other professional programs like med school, and they require something saying that you've completed your degree requirements, if you've held your final oral exam in June, for example, you won't have the next available convocation date for you is November. So once you've held your final oral exam and you've uploaded the finalized version of your thesis, you can request a letter confirming you've met all degree requirements, and you can request a letter through SGS that you can submit so that you have saying that you're actually done, you're just awaiting convocation.
Okay, thank you.